So you say your name is John Smith. How original. Look, you're gonna want to know, since you got a hold of the hexfiles and all, that this is the world of Kronos. The world of the Korax, the Serpent Rider curse, the world of Hexen. Oh, and one more thing. See, the story goes like this. Heretic chronicles the adventures of Harald Shio, who challenged the forces of Despero, the weakest of the three-dimension traveling to Serpent Riders. His victory was hardly insignificant. While he battled Despero, the other two Serpent Riders were far from idle. They were hard at work, sowing seeds of destruction in several other dimensions. One such dimension is Kronos, the world of Hexen, a human world, but one where the forces of magic are both stronger and more strictly controlled than those on the elven world. Humans have learned from painful experience that while magic can be a powerful tool, it also contains more destructive potential than any other force in their universe. From this harsh realization, a disciplined and orderly society has developed, one where every citizen knows his place, and where the vast majority of common men are held enthralled to a few ruthless, powerful leaders. Wielding magical powers and arcane artifacts, these men overshadow every other human force on Kronos, suppressing individual thought and action in the name of the greater good. Within this strict order, three organizations maintain the fabric of human society: the Legion, the Arcanum, and the Church. In an uneasy balance often threatened by petty squabbles and escalating power struggles, these three organizations share absolute dominion over all humanity. The Legion represents human military strength, using brute force backed by magical weapons to impose a strict and inflexible order upon the populace. The Arcanum is the center of learning for all the magical studies, and as such determines who will or will not have access to its wealth and arcane secrets. The Church acts as a bridge and buffer between the Legion and the Arcanum, using a mixture of magic and military training to maintain the balance of power while secretly furthering its own interests. Together or separately, these three groups control every aspect of human life. Each organization is led by a single man. Zedek, Marshal of the Legion. Traductus, Grand Patriarch of the Church. Menelkier, Archmage of the Arcanum. These men are the ultimate embodiment of power on Kronos. Cold, calculating, and devoid of concern for anything but the advancement of their own status, these leaders were the first to fall under the sway of Korax, the second of the three Serpent Riders. In return for their allegiance, Zedek, Traductus, and Menelkier were rewarded by Korax with a dark gift upon life. Using the powers granted them by Korax, as well as the relics already in their possession, all humanity quickly fell into the spell. Only three humans escaped the gaze of their leader's new powers. Veritas, a warrior of the Legion, Daedalon, a mage of the Arcanum, and Parias, a cleric of the Church. Now these three have sworn to destroy the leaders they once followed, and anything else that gets in their way as they execute their task. Entering the mystical portal used by Korax to reach their world, the three become hopelessly separated, forcing each of them to attempt on their own that which they had little hope of doing together. Find Korax's stronghold, defeat his legions of grotesque minions, and finally destroy the Serpent Rider himself. Their task will be difficult, one indeed. It is well known that Korax's special powers stem from his control of the Chaos Sphere, which he uses to warp and corrupt everyone and everything he touches. Though not the mightiest of the Serpent Riders, Korax is far more powerful than Despero was, and his lustful power is matched only by his hatred for all living things not under his control. Can he be vanquished? Only time will tell. Time has told indeed. It goes without saying. You've already defeated Korax and are searching for the meaning behind it all. You see, Mr. Smith, the Serpent Riders exist in a game, and any time the creator of that game wants, boom, Serpent Rider returns. There are many wads that mappers have made after Raven Software finished hexing at its subsequent titles, continuing the saga in some way or another. After getting their grubby paws on the Chaos Sphere, they realized that now and all along, it's just a game. But you weren't playing as the Doom guy or that she-elf. Nah, you would have been playing as one of the classes in hexing. The fighter, the mage, or the cleric. Of course, it is likely you played all the classes now, isn't that right, John, my boy? Now, I bet you didn't know that all the classes are essentially magic users. After all, the title of the game means witches, witchcraft, and they all use mana. The fighter is a classical portrayal of the Hulk and warrior trope, noticeable in popular pulp. Conan, the mighty barbarian, meets the grim dark death dealer in the form of the fighter of hexen. As the story goes, his name is Baratus. Trained by the Legion, Baratus is a master of the weapons and the mystical artifacts of the order. He's the fastest and strongest of the characters. His excellent speed makes him formidable in combat, and his ability to jump great distances allows him to easily reach areas that are difficult for the other classes to access by normal means. He starts the game with strong armor, and he can build his armor class to a higher level than either Daedal or Pariah. He needs the extra protection because his weapons emphasize close-range fighting. This is Baratus' primary weakness, unlike the other classes. He often cannot hang back and dispatch his enemies from a distance. He must charge in to bring the power of his melee weapons to bear. Baratus knows what you might expect for a guy looking like he's ready to storm the gates of Jerusalem. Spiked gauntlets, ouch, that hurts. Then you got Timon's axe. Yeah, that's a real shocker. After that is the hammer of retribution. A mountain of grapes wouldn't stand a chance. We're talking emulsification. But all of that, to what the fighter calls his main means of dispatchment, is ginger beer. Quiet, the ultimate in silence. Sure, the sword itself makes a whole lot of racket, but afterwards, it's quiet, you know.
Sei gegrüßt. Ja, bist du bereit zu sterben?
In the chaos of battle with monsters and the like, sometimes relying on your myth just isn't for everyone. And the priest of the land developed into a martial body in quick time in a world like Chronos. Enter the cleric. Half warrior and half mage. Pariah melds the two disciplines into a lethal composite. His skills and abilities lie somewhere between those of Baratus and Daedalus. He's fairly fast and strong. Some of his weapons can kill from a distance. Some might think of Pariah as a weak half-caste or a mere jack of all trades. But his mixture of martial and mystical training makes him a formidable opponent indeed. The idea of warrior priests are prevalent in fantasy, and in hexen this lone vigilante excels with dark style. He clobbers the unrighteous with a mace of contrition. They'll probably start to enjoy it. Then his far-range weapon, the serpent staff, is a wise choice for most situations. But in true holy man fashion, his third is where it really starts to put on the hurt, or maybe turn up the heat. Firestorm. Call down flames to engulf the wicked. His final weapon is ridiculously powerful, the Wraith Verge. This thing calls for the gang of ghosts to pursue any enemy, and when they get a hold of them, well, let's just say they catch a quick trip to the west. One way. weaves the very fabric of reality with his powerful spells. He's an expert at destroying his foes from afar, eliminating creatures with magical attacks before they can get close enough to injure him. However, his useful ability is counterbalanced by his poor speed and strength, and the weakness of his armor. If you choose Daedalon, you must choose your battles carefully, maximizing the effectiveness of your ranged attacks and finding some way to compensate for your lack of speed and jumping power. Magic is the key, and the doors of Kronos are bound by its ways. Those who seek ultimate power and mastery delve into the tomes of occult wisdom of the ages, becoming mages. The elements that create existence are essentially at a imaginative command, from the destructive forces of nature to the essence of blood. Every good mage knows that he's only as good as his sapphire wand. It'll never expire ammunition, and its range is seemingly immeasurable. Blasting shards of ice from the palms of his hand, his second either lethally freezes or lacerates. That's cold. How about arcing lightning, frying and popping monsters like they were pimples? The Arc of Death spell does just that. A deadly mage will have it memorized. But beyond even imagination comes the mage's ultimate weapon, Blood Scourge. Don't ask me how it works. I couldn't tell you. If you wanted something vaporized and you know how to use it, you get results that satisfy.
Salut mortel, es-tu prêt à mourir?
Other classes do exist in the world of hexing. They'll be kept to a separate discourse. What will be said here is they are less known, but understanding the basics is all you need to find the rest. In the world of hexing, magic and mana are the means for any class to succeed and even progress. This will conclude the basics of hexlore as a start. More topics can be found in the hexfiles database as they become available. Thank you for your participation. Until next time. Kronos, the world of hexes. Now to glean some kind of understanding of the world and anything we might encounter, we look to the Word. Now I decided to contact a mage who's been traveling the hexfiles for as long as I know. Name's Edmund. Says the name comes from Greek words meaning time. You know, I wondered the same thing. Greek. Now this will really blow your top. Says he used something called the internet. It peeked into a reality that apparently spawned the whole world of hexing and the hexfiles as we know it. Just wild. Anyway, time was created by dirt and water, and time made chaos. The sky and an egg. The egg hatched a hermaphrodite, and this god created the cosmos, the world. The world is just any place you can describe it where. So beyond the wheel of time that surrounds the world, there is nowhere. Imagine that. So Kronos is the world of hexing. It's where all who come to the game of hexing find themselves in. Art imitates life, Edmund said. Or did he say life imitates art? I'm not so sure. I'll have to ask him again. You know, I could use that email he was telling me about.
You got mail.
Email? Nah, forget it. We're gonna focus on one thing at a time. And this time, it's Kronos. Time. Now, time is something I know about a bit. And Edmund tells me also that another sister culture of the Greeks called it Saturn. So, being how apparently we exist as a fractal of this real world, all these things matter in understanding what we're doing in the hexfiles. Saturn is depicted as an old man, stern, wielding a scythe. He's called Father Time sometimes, and is the stifling aspect of life, a barrier, the guardian of the threshold, so to speak. So it's coming into view, I suppose, the creators of Hexen wanted to show the world we find ourselves in, Kronos, as a harsh and stern keeper of the keys and switches. There are 7 gates, or spheres, or whatever that enclose the world outside Hexfiles, each having its own guardian. I guess they're like the miniature rings as Kronos is around the egg that spawned the world. They probably exist in the game of Hexen as well, encoded into the world within. Come to think of it, you know, the first hub of Kronos is the 7 portals. And they are ice, fire, steel, and the secret bright crucible. You get to the 7 portals after the winnowing hall. To winnow is to blow air to separate grain from chaff. So it seems the winnowing hall is the door to the 7 portals, and it's based in 3 elements. Probably because they call it 3D, and it's doubled, with one added secret, the crucible, which would really be the 4th aspect. Maybe they imply 4D by such a move. A crucible is a very hot place where metal is melted and can be formed into something new. That must be it. And you know that in Bright Crucible, the exit is at the bottom of the bowl, which is the opposite place of where the dross appears of a crucible, the top. And perhaps that's a square. The box is the ring of trials, that place we find ourselves, seemingly trapped. The 3rd dimension that is encompassed by the 4th. I liked watching these boxing matches with Edmund. Now that I'm using the internet, you know they call the fighting stage the ring, and wouldn't you know, it's a square. There's a lot of squares and cube symbology in the world outside, so it's gotta be reflected in here, in the world of Kronos. Edmund says that Saturn is the master of the harvest, and it's another interesting point that the first test of Kronos is the winnowing hall. That would imply that the user is harvested to complete more trials, and being harvested seems to be the emancipation state also. It's just like some kind of catch-33 or something. Anyway, well, Earth and water made time, so don't ask me how anything works, because time facilitates the cosmos, where there is dirt and water. So bizarre, but it goes in the world of Kronos. And what goes is surrounded by a where. Here we are. Mud. Fire is the hermaphrodite. It's yielding and yet it penetrates all. Ice is hard and encapsulating. And is a state of water. Steel is synthesis. It's iron and carbon. It's forged to a sword or even a key. We are the keys and swords. And the doors and battles are everywhere in Kronos. Jeez, you know what? I'm sorry. I didn't even offer you anything to drink. Won't happen again. Here, a nice cup of joe. Just the way you like it. Now, you know, John, we were speaking on the world. So where do we end up in our quest over Kronos? The Shadow Wood. Followed by the Heresiarch Seminary and the Castle of Grief. This new trilogy in terror will test the wits of each player as they proceed into the mist. The darkness of the dense forest. Is there any other kind of confoundment? Any place that captures being lost in the woods, well, then the woods. The forest holds a deep place in our minds as being one of wonder as much as terror. Forms of nature are kind, and observing plant growth can be truly remarkable and inspiring. However, there is a shadow to everything, and the deep woods are shadowed indeed. The thick canopy prevents the light from becoming anything but dim, and you absorb the strange beauty of the perpetual twilight. Ancient and silent sentinels stand in place, and a feeling of smallness overtakes you. Anytime a fog comes through, and every night for that matter, the beauty of the dim-lit world is swallowed up in the pitch. It's a hard place to get around when you can't see anything at all. And the dangers are very dire in this place, from getting lost to being overcome by the monsters that creep throughout. All over the world there are forests of varying types, and everyone is unique. Separating the forests, we find dank swamps and arid deserts, craggy peaks, grasslands, and of course the sea, the vast bodies of water that envelop the dry land. Throughout the land, the humans of Kronos have built mighty cities, and the far spread of their fortifications have become their own unique habitats in the world. The use of magic is well established, and the people have been unified under the powers that be, the power of three. Governance of Kronos is established, and prior discussion is a triangle of forces maintaining the order of the populace. These separate bodies are not so unlike each other in art. They all hold to a rigid code board in the indoctrinating methods of the heresiarch, who is the general of the overarching power of Korak. Now, the heresiarch, this title goes to one who authors a concept that's declared a heresy by an opposing faction. From what I can gather, this is the result of a transcended form of sorts for a user of powerful magic. So a bit of the bestiary must be divulged, in particular about the heresiarch. A large demonic body, muscled and scaled, bearing a bright red hue all down to the tip of its tail. It's not known who the sorcerer was who became the heresiarch, who we encountered in action. Whoever it was, they were responsible for organizing the brotherhoods of the land together and establishing and administering the seminaries for the various schools. These areas are well fortified and populated with all kinds of officers of Korax's army. Now, these lands that are controlled by humans and called Kronos by them is just one of an infinite amount. If a man could keep traveling in the hexfiles, he'd find endless worlds and endless variety of cultures, people, and stories. Some distant yet close worlds we know are Therian and Barthoran. And who could forget Mars? And Earth, for that matter. Some say in the hexfiles that all the worlds are the same world, perhaps just separated by time and space. The sprawling architecture of the Dark Lord inspires the viewer. They speak of a power, and many shirk in dread from the onset of a silhouette of the peaks and spires. But not you, John, my boy. The castle must be conquered, and the shadows must be investigated. This concludes the discussion on Kronos as a world to have adventures in hexen. Any place, any time can be made in the world of Kronos. The limits are only in the imagination. Until next time. In the world of Kronos. The limits are only in the imagination. Until next time.
Wait. Forests, deserts, swamps, mountains, grasslands, the sea. You didn't tell me about the ice. You think I'd just roll off like some log down a hill? You tell me, or I swear, I'll rip those wings right off your head. There's got to be more. What about the ice? It's not the end of the game. You know what I mean. Not to mention the necropolis. You just failed to mention the end boss's domain and lair.
water in another form. Don't forget that. I'm glad, however, that you pressed me for more. Of course, what I've introduced is minimal and, in a sense, maximal to get the cogs turning. Kronos is a world that thrives, if not wholly made up of this concept. It's the very nature of reality. Since you've shown interest in knowing more, I'll indulge you. All around the world there is ice. When the temperature is adequate, the form of water changes. It solidifies. Snow, falling and collecting in heaps, and finally hardening into its frozen form of ice. The cold dark is quiet. Things come to a slow, and they come even further to a halt. Stasis. If you linger too long, you will freeze also, as you are a vessel of water. But the fiery spirit will urge one to move, so kindle the fire and remain active when exploring the ice. Stay firm in this, and your exploration of the hexfiles will persist. All the environs we've discussed, the land, the sea, air, all are inextricably twined and inseparable, for it is a densely woven mesh that nothing can be apart from or escape. We live in the mind of God, the Creator. The sooner you realize will be the time you start having wisdom in your heart. It's all a game, to be sure, but there isn't anything beyond knowing it's a game, and knowing this changes nothing in the outcome, because there is none. To win or lose is a tactic employed to dismay you from truly playing. Many consider themselves wiser and seek out red herrings, and they lose sight of the whole picture, which is wholly simple, considering you can never see it all at once. Just the game and the play. To know you can't see it all is pretty much the whole picture you'll get, and it suffices, because then you can play.
You said there's nothing outside the barrier to be seen. I don't believe you.
Don't. There is nothing that is any different at all than what we dwell in now. Sure, it may be alien and wondrous at front. All I'm saying is everything has to be a part of the same thing. Domes inside domes. You yourself are a complete reflection of what's outside. The sooner you know, the sooner you can get to the real game at hand. It's useless to chase the ice and attempt to break the barrier when everything is already right in front of and inside of you, my dear John. I know there are questions still. They won't stop. Now the game starts. Truly, it's begun and continues to do so. It never stopped. Only your attention to the fact has. So, jump in that portal of the hexfiles and go play. You know, I'm thinking of exploring all the wondrous creatures you may encounter in the many worlds you can potentially traverse. So next time we meet, I'll break out the hefty manual of monsters. The bestiary, if you will. We can lounge here in the interim and explore the wondrous and horrible beings of the worlds together. How does that sound? That will be fine. I'm sure you agree. Until next time.
John Smith finds himself again within the endless halls and rooms of the hexfiles. The winged skull, that voice coming from the seemingly empty space, as always confronts our hero with terms and tales from beyond the veil. This time it's monsters, and entries from the creature companion are up next. And now it's time for Hexen, so turn Turn off your lights.
That monster, waiting in the dark for you to do the wrong thing. Under your bed, or lurking beneath a dark stairway. The moment you misbehave, the boggle is poised with anticipation to clobber and maim with its hulking strength. Now I suspect the creature is mutant. It's humanoid. Its occupation seems to be similar to the fighter. Perhaps Korax melded together warriors and zapped them with dark magic into a repulsive monster. Skin that's hard and more like armor than actual flesh. That's thick and covered in protruding spikes or barbs. Its visage is one of bare rage. Sharp-nailed teeth riddle its jaws. Massive and exceedingly strong, it heaves large crushing weapons that it uses to sunder its victims. And hell, I don't know, they might even try clobbering a slew of red mush on the floor. Etten, the Yalton, the Bogeyman. This lurker is embodied into help throughout mankind, into its deepest past. It really just wants one thing: to destroy. Allow your agility to outshine these slow and dim-witted henchmen. If you keep away from their crushing blows, defeating these foes shouldn't prove too difficult for such a well-traveled hero such as yourself. Meticulous in its plans for skullduggery, the freedom known to be wily and deprive a profound sense of pleasure from trickery and mayhem. The thieves of confidence, manipulators of facts, sultans of sadism, fluttering with draconic wings, wreathing themselves in flame, darting to and fro while emitting hails of fiery projectiles. These are the Afreet, a demon or spirit found in the hidden places, sometimes promising power and riches to those who would wish to pledge their soul in exchange. Desirous thoughts, wishes are spoken, and the Afreet, the Jinn, the Imp, will gleefully comply with exploiting any shortcoming and misconstrued aspect to produce a less than ideal outcome for the wisher. However, this is the fire's bread and butter. Many mages have fallen prey in particular. They are free and mysterious and do have extreme power in the beyond normal domain. They charm and entice the eager. Their element is the consuming flame. Some say the Afreet actually changes form from time to time and place to place. Don't ignore them for their apparent demeanor as lowly annoyances. They can set ablaze to any hope, and will gloat over the smoldering remains of your dreams. Dispatch them quickly and with tact. There are more monsters to deal with that are even more dangerous, and you never want one of these ambush beings to capitalize on a poorly exposed flank. Now this isn't one of the friendly horsemen you'd hope to encounter. an overgrown lizard, horns protruding its head and spikes coursing down its spine and tail, hard scales covering a muscular frame, a maw full of sharp teeth, and a bite force that would put a tiger to shame. These are the chaos serpents, blazing red eyes, hungry for mayhem, scan and surveil for something to scorch and rend to bits. It's theorized that the serpent riders allied themselves with this ancient race of dragon-like creatures to gain their untold power. It's true that many are mere agents within their armies, but older and more powerful serpents are said to steer the course of events across entire worlds. The ones encountered by the hero are generally beasts that have no ambition but to devour and maim on a base level, and it's likely these are ones who have been conditioned to be unthinking monsters of rank and file for some past transgression of their superiors. You'll see a couple variants in Chronos. A green serpent, whose breath weapon is combusting fire projectiles, and a brown serpent that belches a green acid combustion, each equally deadly. At close range you will rend with talons and chomp with those vicious jaws. It's essentially a dragon, not much else to do but slay or be slain. called reavers, float in ritualistically flayed and dismembered bodies, adorned with pieces of armor they once used, likely in their fight against the Dark Lords when they drew breath among the living. Ghostly mutterings come from the shambles that were once intrepid sojourners. It isn't enough that they are horrifying just on sight. Demonic forearms are grafted on, and their large palms conduct hellfire to blast foes to a char, or entrap in a vampiric clutch that drains the very life away. In places where high-ranking officers of the Servant Riders' armies dwell, expect to find legions of waiting reavers, and never linger, for they will keep coming no matter how many you slay. The power source for the necromantic energies that binds them must be destroyed for them to cease being a bother.
Okay, well, story time's been great. I know a bunch of facts that will help put me to sleep. These hexfiles are full of much yapping, and these pesky minions ain't gonna stand up to my heavy buckshot or plasma rifle. Tell me about their boss, damn it. What about Korax? What about their leaders? Where do I find the bastards so I can end this stupid game for good?
In time, my dear John, in time. I will tell you about the corrupted leaders and Korax the next time. For now, take this time to reflect on how to battle these monsters, and it won't be with your usual trusted weaponry.
What do you mean?
In Hexen, like I stated before, you will have to choose a class and find and master its weapons scattered throughout your journey in Kronos.
Just perfect. About telling me where to find the weaponry to fight these monsters.
In time, my boy.
Just show me the portal to Hexen, and I'll get this done myself.
All in time.
Private John Smith, 5th Company, United Forces of Neo-Texaca personal log. I've made my way through several entries of what I've come to know as the hexfiles. There's an entity here who has guided me thus far. It's told me about the world of Kronos, the world of Hexen, its denizens, and the forces of Korax that manipulate the affairs of its people. I have no account of time here. Whether a fortnight or a year has passed is beyond my comprehension since I last saw the entity. This personage appears as a human-like skull with wings like a bat that are attached to either side of its cranium. Although I don't understand how it vocalizes its descriptions, they are audible. Though as to whether I'm hearing it with my ears or in my head is not discernible. I believe I'm nearing the point to enter Kronos. Once I've obtained the necessary information, I will commence with a full-on prosecution of Korax and his minions. I'm transmitting this to all available frequencies. If you find this log, please pass it along to the Inner Observations Agency. John Smith, out.
From our sponsors. Nigga Change AI Layer 2 and 2 on Solana. First fully AI Layer 2 blockchain built by niggas for niggas. A nigga-to-nigga electronic cash system featuring patented LLM, lot of low money technology, proof of nigga entry scan system, broke nigga detection software, and unveiling new official thermodynamic bad chaser 1 gorilla in TPS transaction speed. That's nigga change. And 2. Yeah, I'm finna bridge.
Don't miss a chilling journey into the depths of Kronos in the newest installment of Hexlore. Tonight after 6 on Hexfiles, where we've got you in mind.
Please refer to your guide of local listings for accurate airing times.
Who has time for a complicated dinner plan? Your family's next meal is everyone's favorite, right from the can. Enjoyed by young and old, Twisted Souls is the best choice for a full meal in a pinch that satisfies until the next time you need to eat. Everyone's favorite, it's Twisted Souls. Find it in your local grocery store next to the kelp dip. Twisted Souls, the best choice for the young and old. Twisted Souls, now with more sodium.
Die Lustkiste. Zahlung per Gutschein, die Lustkiste. Solange Vorräte reichen. Die Lustkiste.
It's time for Hexen, so turn out your lights. You're watching Hexlore, only on Hexfiles, where we've got you in mind.
Johnny is back in the chair and lowered the recorder from his mouth. He reached into his bag of smokes and withdrew one of the last remaining menthols, lit it and began to toke. He leaned back and stared into the ever-shifting ceilings and walls of the hex files, the cigarette bobbing as he inhaled and exhaled. As he glanced toward the monitor in front of him, the screen flickered and flashed. The skull was back and now floating in the room with him. Well, it's about time.
John, my boy, just the person I was looking for.
I find that hard to believe. You mean there are others in here, you pester?
Oh, now don't be crass, John. You know how much I adore our time together. And of course there are other travelers in the Hex Files. Maybe you'll even meet one or two here soon and along the way.
I can't wait.
Now I believe it's time I showed you the files on the big baddies of Hex, and the tip in the boss edition of our Creature's Companion should elucidate the remaining entries in the monsters well enough for you to satisfy your hunger for knowledge. Then you can prosecute the enemies of Neo-Texaco, as you stated.
You heard that?
I hear everything here. Oh, one more thing. Upon tattered wings, lingering with contempt, the first boss you'll face in Kronos is the Death Wyvern. Bound by necromancy, the decaying corpse of a flying reptile is animated once again to become a fiendish predator of the skies. In life, this creature was a prime predator, able to leap upon prey from vast distances and shred with its powerful legs, talons, and teeth. Small enough to stalk in densely wooded areas and other cramped environs, a true master of terrorizing and tracking in chaotic instances. Its ability to fly just makes it all the more dangerous, being able to surveil large areas and launch preemptive assaults. If all its powers of predation weren't enough, the dragonkin also belches forth exploding fireballs. A piercing screech fills the air as it circles and dives, marking the ground with craters and setting ablaze to anything that will catch. A good ranged attack is the best course of action against the weapon of death. However, landing the blow is sometimes easier said, as a dance of movement and precise calculation is required to bring down this flighty foe. Take caution and be patient in engaging the creature. The Serpent Riders are occupied by only the most cunning and ruthless, reserved for the single-minded who are bent on sheer ambition, clawing their way to the lofty places of the Dark Councils. From these positions of power, edicts and mandates are issued forth from individuals whose hunger is an ever-climbing, steady slope. One such office is that of the Heresiarch, a master of destructive magics and curses to cripple and hinder, flatten and dismember, singe and petrify. Their bodies are transformed by the abyssal powers, taking shape of the ascendants in a monster. Flesh and bone form a dreadful sight, displaying their terrible supremacy to onlookers. Claws and talons, scales and horns, fangs and tails are but a few traits common among the transformations, but each one is unique, only sharing the quality of being bound by threads wrought in the bleak pits of the beyond. Approach a fight with this agent of the Serpent Riders with utmost preparedness. You'll need the strongest weapons and plenty of mana. They will shroud themselves in magic shields that will absorb attacks and also redirect them. Strategize your movements and be ready for a drawn-out battle.
Greetings, mortal. Are you ready to die? My servants can smell your blood, human. Worship me and I may yet be merciful. Then again, maybe not. You have played this game too long, mortal. I think I shall remove you from the board. Are you strong enough to face your own masters?
Are you strong enough to face your own masters?
The Grand Marshal of the Legion. Zedek's name is feared within all the orders and the outside world, acting not only as the point of the spear that is the fighting forces of Kronos, but as the executioner of those who commit crimes against the governing body. The fighter's techniques have been honed for hundreds of years, being deadly in both armed and unarmed combat. Zedek was peerless in his mastery of the hand-to-hand fighting style, and earned the moniker of Fist. None could best him in the ring. A rite performed to determine the leader of the Wolf Order. The fighters are to duel within a stage, with the highest ranking of the Legion, members of the clergy, and agents of the Arcanum in attendance. The contenders are to use their preferred weapon, and only one may live. The weapons range from the blood-crushing power of maces and hammers to the elegant arc of the sword. Zedek won every round of his matches using only his fists, clad in spiked and heavy gauntlets. The martial art is of the oldest fighting forms in the land. It is the first lesson inductees of the Legion must become adept in. Upon seizing the seat of Lord of the Legion, Zedek was to now carry one of the fabled rune blades. These swords were created long ago, and by powers that are guarded heavily and shrouded deep in mystery. There are only but a handful of these weapons left in the world, and of them most are scattered. Since being tapped by Korax and imbued with the powers of death, Zedek has become even more terrible in his deadly abilities. It will only take but a quick word for him to lay any of his enemies down.
Deal!
Reaching back for generations, the church has been the focal point for the vast majority of the people of the land. In the annals of history, it can be found to be the institution guiding the population's movements toward unity, binding them in ties and bringing a common symbol to sit in the center of each household's table. The mythos of which it is sustained being derived from the most ancient ideas and beliefs that initially brought the clans and tribes together. The seat of power within the organization is the Grand Patriarch, and Tradictus is the current demagogue of the era we find ourselves. Tradictus in truth has been manipulating the affairs of the church and in turn that of the common people for generations. Having been in contact with agents of the Serpent Riders, immortality has been prolonged. His unnatural longevity has granted him uncontested reign, and in his time at the head of the people's religion has yielded a fruitful one in ushering Korax into Kronos. By obfuscating the truth of their god, Traductus and his clergy have paved the way for the horrors of the Serpent Riders in the minds of the populace to take deep root. Any dissent born is quashed, from the mind-numbing neighbor to the rigid codes of conduct imposed by the orders of the land. Through fear and mysticism, all but a few are tightly bound in invisible binds. The church is the outer heart of the governance of Kronos, and Traductus is seen as a living god among men. Legions of faithful will gladly serve with their lives to safeguard his vision, and even the dead who are bound to him will pursue the enemy who stands in defiance of his zealous organization. Grand Magus, Metal Gear, keeper of the Summum Secretum, the one who knows. Amongst the orders, the Griffin brothers are perhaps the most misunderstood. This sect of Magi holds the arcane tomes that within is found the methods to control reality. It is this group that hovers above its contemporaries. At the head of the order sits the Grand Magus, even more sublime in his exemplary execution of magical arts than the Archmage, the pinnacle of what the majority of the ones who follow the witch's path ascend to. Metal Gear has reigned over the Arcanum from a lost time of history. Before the many generations that walk the land today, he was familiar with the people several centuries of cataclysm in the past. Korax influenced the events of the current age since the death of the old world, using the Magi as his most subtle influences. Being an entity that dwells within the untime, only the most adept of mages can reach out and receive his instruction. It has taken several centuries for Korax to make his armies manifest in the physical realm, and without Metal Gear, nothing would have come to pass. It is said he can freeze a man's spirit and body in just a gaze, and he can ignite a foe, devouring fiery explosions by the working of his wand. He can appear where he wishes and be elsewhere in an instant. Iron will and complete conviction is what it will take to vanquish this boss and advance your journey to facing Korax.
In the midst of his thoughts, mired in the subjects bombarded over his psyche, John is faced with a dilemma. Will he win his dilemma? Time has passed since his last witness of the creature's companion, and has been left to wander in the strange realm he's accompanied all this time. Being from the timeline and realm of the reign of Neo-Texica, where a post-apocalyptic mankind clings on to civilization with an advanced technology and a binding ring not unlike the ties of the Society of Kronos, the world of Hexen. Himself a fighter of and server to his masters, a soldier whose whole soul is devoted to the art of manipulation. He finds within magnetic desire to serve the dark majesty of Korax and the institution of his plans in the physical world. And then, just as though by fate, John Smith found a back door in the code and vanished from the stage of events so far in the hexfiles.
Well, he's gone now, but you're still here. Been here all along. I noticed you. The quiet, reserved type. I like that. Your silent resilience is a true sign that you are ready to undertake this quest into Kronos and free the people Welcome back. I'm glad you can make it. Though the path through the exploration of Kronos has been at times harrowing, I trust that there has been merit to this arduous journey. Indeed, it has felt like coursing through dense and tangled woods, as seeking shade in the bleak, dusty desert, and at times seemingly pointless voyage over cold and lifeless, frozen wastes. The vantage point of peaks has revealed the vast area of the sojourner, and juxtaposed details that are lost at arm's distance. These moments have brought clarity and meaning into focus and refreshed sore feet from their weary travels. What remains? The ultimate mystery, but of course, to explore, like as to a dream, it is wonderful and terrible, its meaning a fabric of woven magnificence beyond total recognition, its purpose to cradle the witness in an ocean of sensation and thought. The patterns that can be categorized are the hallmarks of a tale that communicate a vision and an intelligence that is artful in its expression. Monsters and beasts are in the way. A beast walks the way among them. The dominant creature rules over the other. A challenge lies unspoken to the one carrying a sword. A question begs to be answered by the one who holds the wand. Meaning desires a seat for the one grasping the scepter. So what of the ultimate destination for the living within Kronos? The grave. Our persona dissolved as the body who carries the consciousness expires. Things come into being, grow, and fade to the unseen, the unknown, in time. In the quest through Kronos, one faces the array of things that whisper together a quiet and subtle knowledge. Mighty and fearsome elements conduct a thrumming chorus. The strong song of life beats in the hearts of bioelectrical systems manifested in matter. From the winnowing of grain to the smith's transformation of metals. From the probing of shadows to the respite found in solace. The struggle to be the victor as one perceives. To continue. The initiate who bears the power of language and sentience becomes a detective on an ever-ongoing case. Represented in Hexen is as the journey of life. What can be solved is the means to progress. A menagerie of experiences flower the way in a log made of observed instances, filed and organized into a map. So the final step in this particular journey is the necropolis. Your masters must be faced. Korax is the symbol of death, the final boss to be overcome in Kronos. He is an exalted entity from beyond your dimension, and holds the power of the Chaosphere. He grants its own a dominion to persist beyond the mortal coil and the known world. For the sole captain, it is the prize to be had in the pursuit that drives all life. So in defeating the end boss of the game Hexen, the contender gains the ability to play again, to create their own game if they wish, to travel endlessly and obtain new experiences. At the end of the battle, you become Korax by seizing his place as a master of one's own fate. impression remains. Is death the end? Things change in what seem to end from a certain perspective. However, based on the knowledge and experience we've undertaken, it would be a safe bet that nothing can stop the story from happening.